How soon can you land?
I can't tell.
You can tell me I'm a doctor.
No, I mean, I'm just not sure.
Or can't you take a guess?
Well, not for another 2 hours.
You can't take a guess for another 2 hours?
Hello and welcome to Dots Lines Destinations, episode 82. It's Thursday, May 14th, 2015. I'm Stephen Seagraves, joined this week by Seth Miller. Hey, Seth.
Hello, hello, hello.
And also on the line this week is Rollo Veloso. Hey, Rollo.
Hey, what's up?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm just trying to dodge all the traffic here.
That sounds about right.
Minor details. This episode being recorded live in a game of Frogger.
This week we're going to cover a few things, and those few things that we're going to talk about, just a few of them are diversions, mistake fares in the DOT, and premium Twitter accounts. I think that's just like a teaser for this week. I think we have a lot more to talk about, though. First, I think the biggest topic, or the one that's making the most news, is the United diversion due to a passenger with special needs. There was a flight from Houston to Portland, diverted to Salt Lake City due to the pilot said that it was due to a disturbance, but the mother claims that it was because her daughter was autistic. Have you guys read much about this at all?
I've read some of the highlights, I'll say. I think when the mother was quoted as saying she told the flight attendant she needed a special meal or the kid was going to go crazy. Yeah. I believe the word, she didn't say go crazy. I think the word used was like, might start scratching people.
Yes.
That's kind of a deal breaker to me. Like, if we're going to actually have a problem where there could be physical altercations,
yep,
that's kind of like end of the game. Yep. I don't see a lot of flexibility at that point.
Well, and the mother said that like she was asking for a meal at first. She asked for, they said they had a hot sandwich on board, so she asked for the hot sandwich, but it came out cold. And the daughter only likes hot food, and I understand that. Like, everyone has their quirks or whatever. Everyone has their preferences.
Yeah. And with autism, that's a little more than just preferences.
Yeah, and it gets very it's more exaggerated, right? Like, because there's reaction to not getting something that you want. So I think that was fine. Like, she requested something, and she wasn't able to get it, and she's frustrated. I get that. When she said that she's going to have a meltdown and she may start scratching someone, I think that it went to almost a threat type thing, like, you need to get me something or we're going to have a problem. And I just don't think that's something you say to a flight crew. And I believe... Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was having this conversation about a completely different topic, but it doesn't matter how right you are. Disagreeing with a flight attendant is basically a guaranteed loss.
Yep. Yeah.
There's almost no way to win that argument. Doesn't matter how right you are. And I've been in several of them. You can't take pictures out the windows. Yeah, I'm pretty sure actually I can. I actually had one flight where I put my camera away and afterwards just, went up to the flight attendant. I'm like, hey, I'm just curious. I've done this before. Is this really a thing? And she went and pulled out her manual and found the section that she thought it was in and admitted that she was wrong eventually. But even doing that was a touch and go decision on my part of whether it was worth pressing the issue. Mostly because I was bored. I did. But, and there's clearly a polite and friendly way to do it versus I'm going to film out this window or I'm going to start scratching people.
Yeah.
That would have been a less appropriate way to approach the situation.
And one thing that there is a video of the deplaning of the family, because the whole family was asked to get off the plane in Salt Lake City. And there's a video. In the video, one of the flight attendants actually asked the guy taking the video to turn the video off, and he puts that in the note in the video. But he starts recording again. Anyway, so I guess we should count that guy lucky for not getting kicked off the plane as well.
Additional kickoff,
and that's a privacy thing. I mean, I get it. There's an incident happening. You want to make news or whatever, but recording that, all the other passengers in the family and whatnot. And right, this comes back. There was actually a story that's been around many, many times, but I think it hit Petapixel and then another site this week, or the Washington Post ran it and then Petapixel picked it up. And the headline is airlines can tell you to stop filming, and some of them are doing that. And the reality is it's the same thing they've always done, which is don't take pictures of other passengers, don't take pictures of our crew.
Yep.
But otherwise, it's certainly not without asking. But otherwise, if you're taking pictures of your personal stuff or your meal or whatever it is, that's probably okay. And there have been plenty of scenarios and stories in the past where there have been, bad scenes, people thrown off planes. But it's, I don't know. I feel like that's one of those things that's just so easily misunderstood and such a bad fight to have.
Well, and I think, going back to this story, the whole autism thing, I think if you just take the autism piece out of it, what the mother said, taken on its own, probably got the plane diverted, regardless of the daughter's actions during the flight. Because she was making noise and stuff, apparently, and people didn't care. but saying
Right.
what you said is probably what actually got it diverted. And the mother claims that they were discriminated against. I just don't see it, and I'm not a lawyer, but I just don't see, like, there's no mention of autism anywhere really in the discussion. She told the flight attendant that her daughter had special needs. So how do they know she has autism, and how do you know that was the autism was the reason they were diverted? I feel like it was just I don't know. It's like an attention grab type thing. I mean, it stinks that you got diverted, but they were put on the next flight on Delta the same night. So it's not like United didn't accommodate them or left them in a hotel for a week or a night even. They were put on the next plane to Portland out of Salt Lake City on Delta. It's just a weird story too, and I'm writing a blog post about it because some of the stuff, like there's an AP story that talks about it, and the wording is different in it.
The Washington Post said that they I guess at the end they did bring her food.
Yeah, and then there's other times where it says that she didn't say she was going to scratch someone, just that she was going to scratch. And so it's just very, like, I don't know if it's poor reporting or if it's that people are changing what they said or what. It just seems very odd. The whole thing is odd. So I would like more facts, personally.
I thought that they did have hot food you can buy, though. Is it only on certain flights?
Did they finally retrofit all the old 320s with ovens?
Yeah, and
was it even a 320?
It was a 320.
I thought it was.
From the video, it was a 320.
So I feel like some of the old TED planes didn't have ovens, so that was part of it. But I think maybe those have finally been retrofit, but maybe the flight attendants just served the meal cold. I don't know.
And that's something I was going to talk about in my blog post was, we don't really know why it was served cold. Maybe they didn't even cater the right thing. I mean, miscatering happens all the time. And I also want to know how they got the meal from first class, because they actually did give her a first class jambalaya meal. So did someone...
I like the jambalaya.
Yeah, did someone not eat their meal? Or was there an extra one? Was it a crew meal?
On my last flight, I declined the hot meal, so maybe it's that meal.
They've been holding it around for you?
Yeah.
We've left that one wrapped up for the next time he's on board. So anyway, I don't want to go too deep in it. I know it's a challenge to raise children in general, and even more of a challenge to raise a child that's got special needs. So I don't doubt that this mother was stressed. I just don't know if she took the right action.
Yeah, right. The easy question to ask is, why didn't she bring her own meal? Right. We joke about that a lot, but best we can tell, there was sufficient layover time to do that. Would it have still been hot? I don't know. Like, there's plenty of. It cuts both ways a little bit, right? There's still plenty of opportunities for that to go well or not, but certainly that's at least one of the considerations.
Yep, absolutely. Then there's another kind of strange story that happened today while we're recording this, which is Monday. A plane made an emergency landing. It looks like it was a CR2 at LAX. It was a United CR2, and it made a landing. It had a landing gear problem, and actually one of the left side landing gear actually collapsed when they landed, and it skidded on its belly down the runway. And amazingly, the pilot kept it like straight down the middle, pretty much the entire.
Did it collapse on landing, or did they go in knowing gear wasn't down or not locked or something?
I think it was not locked, because if you watched, it looks like the gear is down, but as soon as he touches the runway, I mean, it collapses. So I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't seen the video yet.
There's not a lot of detail in the story, but it says that the left main gear, it was unable to extend its left main gear, so maybe it was not even down. But in the video, it looks like it is. So
yeah, so that's the thing. I've heard both versions just from reading sort of tweets about it. But my biggest concern is it looks like the plane wasn't damaged very much, and they might go back into service.
Yeah, and it is a CR2. Darn.
It is a CR2. Yeah.
We're terrible.
Trying to make light of a very dangerous situation. I'm very glad everybody's safe. I'm a little disappointed the plane is also.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a hats off to the pilot type situation. I mean, he did a great
Absolutely.
job. Both pilots did a great job, and it speaks to their training. So, but it was an interesting thing to watch this morning as I got up. So, let's get to the DOT, Seth. I think this is kind of the topic you've been passionate about for the last couple of days as we've talked offline.
Yeah, sure.
The DOT is.
It's interesting to me.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they've said that they're not going to honor mistake fares in this document that they've released, right? It's preliminary document.
Well, it's like an interim document. So what the DOT has basically said is they are no longer going to require airlines to honor mistake fares as they have for the past 4 years. And this stems from a sort of interpretation of the false advertising rules that govern airlines. Mm-hmm. And so 4 years ago, they basically said changing the fare after purchase would constitute a violation. And they explicitly in a sort of FAQ document said this even includes mistake fares. And since then, as has been pointed out, the rules have changed a little bit, right? There was a case where if it was, sold by a U.S. carrier but not to or from the United States, the rules no longer applied. Or if it, only connected in the United States but continued on, the rules didn't apply. They definitely sort of softened the stance a little bit.
Yep.
But there have, in the past 4 years, been any number of sort of suggestions / complaints that the rules were too arduous and too overbearing against the airlines. I actually think I wrote a couple of years ago about a lawyer in Texas sort of wrote a brief saying that the DOT is basically protecting airlines against unscrupulous passengers. And arguably that's all true, or not. It's hard to say exactly. But the current version of it is that last Friday in the sort of dump the news cycle, the DOT issued a statement saying, pending review of comments that weren't really solicited last year, we are going to suspend the requirement that airlines honor mistake fares. And this comes on the heels of the sort of United Danish kroner situation. Recently, we had the American Airlines $400 business class to China, or $500 business class to China, whatever that price point was in there. There have been a couple relatively big ones lately, and plenty of others, along the way as well. But this is one of those. All along, my comment about the mistake fare ruling was the airlines held all the power and wielded it somewhere between unfairly and unfriendly. Which I know isn't the word, but we'll go with it. For so long that the regulators stepped in and sort of forced their hand wholesale to the other direction, right? The pendulum swung all the way to the other side. Yep. And now, rather than coming to somewhere in the middle, the pendulum has swung all the way back. And it's a little surprising to me that the DOT hasn't found that middle ground yet. I'm slightly hopeful they will, as part of the new ruling that's supposed to come out eventually. But the other thing that's weird about that is this sort of first came to discussion in April or May of 2014 when a different set of rules was being proposed, and there was a formal document produced. And in that, it's a notice of proposed rulemaking. It's sort of the way that sort of stuff happens with the department. And when an NPRM is issued, there's then like a 90-day comment window, and then the DOT reads over all the comments, and both airlines and regular citizens get to submit them. And then sort of after all of that, after that feedback is processed, they issue revised rules. Mm-hmm. And in this case, the initial NPRM was sort of like, we're also looking into this, but we're not sure what to do. And it wasn't, we're revoking the rule. There was no actionable change of the rules for comments to be received on. It really was a very generic, we think this might be a problem, we're looking into it.
Yep.
And now they're saying we're going to render our ruling based on the comments received, based on that sort of very vague, this might be a problem statement. And so in many ways, I feel like, that's the sort of situation where, because they didn't propose any revisions to the rules, I certainly didn't get involved and write a statement or a comment. Had they said, this is what we're going to change them to, if it was something I disagreed with, I probably would have. Yep. I assumed that it meant in a future notice, we will issue guidance of what we think the new rules should be, and then comments will be accepted. And so I feel a little bit like they've shortchanged their own process. Yep. To the detriment of consumers. But again, it sort of depends on what the final answer is.
Do you think they're being pressured somewhat by the recent American situation?
Massively.
Yeah.
I can't believe that between that with the Danish thing, I can't believe there's not a massive amount of pressure coming. I mean, the Delta Boxing Day debacle was December 2013, but only in the past few months have those tickets finally all been consumed, right? I mean, there have been a number of fares that were very costly to the airlines, a number of mistakes.
And I mean, some of the bloggers have posted the question, why now? Why is the DOT looking at this now? I mean, mistake fares have been pretty prevalent for the last 3 to 4 years. Do you think it's because they're making mainstream news now when mistake fares pop up?
I think it's got to be a volume issue.
Yeah.
If the DOT says we got thousands of complaints about the kroner fare, right? And I know not everybody goes through the process of filing complaints. So let's presume that people who had one only filed one per ticket purchased. I mean, the volumes of these things, I think it's not even necessarily mainstream news so much as blogs are bigger, message boards are bigger, deal sites are bigger. This stuff spreads faster now.
Yep.
And so, the folks at American, I spoke with some folks who work at American recently about some of this stuff, and they're like, yeah, we found it pretty quickly, and we plugged the hole pretty quickly. And it's true, they did. But it was still out there for a while, and a whole lot of tickets were sold.
Yeah. I mean,
back in the day when Air Fiji or Iceland Air had free tickets to visit Fiji and Iceland respectively, way back in the day, that used to be, those were a couple of the old deals from the old mileage run forums that were considered sort of the jumbos of their day. And it's a decade ago now, probably. But I doubt they sold thousands of them.
Yeah.
Maybe 1,000. And I don't know. Obviously, we could maybe try to find out. But I'm guessing the number of posts on those threads in the mileage run forum on Fire Talk is a small fraction of what any of these other ones has generated.
It's an interesting thing to think about because mistake fairs have become more. They've definitely become more. How do I put this? More public, more quickly. I mean, it used to be. I mean, but even with Twitter around, mistake fairs really didn't pop up on Twitter. Now it is very. I mean, you see a mistake fair and it's on Twitter really quickly, and it's being spread around very quickly. And even a few years ago, it wasn't like that. And Twitter was still big. I mean, it was growing, but it was big. So I wonder if that's been part of it. Like some of the volume's been growing because people have, it's very simple people are writing instructions on how to book them. And so it's simple to figure out how to do it. If there's some kind of loophole that you have to take advantage of. But I think you're right. Like volume itself, I think has just grown huge at this point. But I do think that they're coming down kind of heavy handed. If they're just going to say any mistake, anytime, well then that's back to where we were when the airlines had complete control. Because what constitutes a mistake then? Let's say you have $1,000 business class fare, which is actually something that's going on right now from the East Coast or even from Europe to the United States. Is that a mistake? If you look at it as a percentage of a standard business class ticket, you'd probably say yes, right?
Yeah.
But that was my argument to American when they wouldn't ticket my Hong Kong ticket. I said, look, you're telling me that I should know that this is too cheap? Like, that's not true. I was like, you guys just offered a $1,200 round trip business class ticket to Argentina. Like, this is pretty close. Like, I have no way of knowing that this is an actual mistake. But they pushed me to that website or that page that said it was a zero-based fare or whatever.
Yeah. Now, I had a similar situation with BA when they didn't want to honor my $800 ticket or $900 ticket to India. And that's, to be fair, I've actually paid about those prices to fly to India before. And it happened to have been a full Y booking. So I would have been able to upgrade for cheap and I would have earned a lot of miles. But they canceled it out. I'm looking now. From what I can see of the Fiji fare, it was a $50 sort of Fiji fare in 2005. So it really was 10 years ago.
Wow. We're old.
Yeah.
No, I mean, but let's think about that though. Let's say, like today, for instance, I saw a fare from Houston to Mumbai for $845. And so if I'm a non-aviation geek passenger and I just look up Houston to Mumbai and I come across this $845 fare, let's just pretend that it was a Y fare. And I don't know anything about fares. All I know is it's in my price range. You're telling me now that the airline has the ability to say, nope, like you can't have that. That's really supposed to be a $1,600 fare or $2,000 fare. That seems crazy to me that we're back to that.
And that's where we are. So it's tough. I mean, I'm just looking through some of these deals from the good old days, so to speak. Is Charlotte to Mexico City for $110 a mistake? Probably.
Yeah.
But it's hard to know. I mean, I paid $268 round trip to, a Cologne when Continental was pulling the route and had basically a fire sale to finish out the season.
Yeah.
And arguably today, I mean, that was basically a $0 fare. It was like a $10 base fare and the rest of it was taxes.
Yeah.
Is that a mistake or a sale? Was it supposed to be $100 and someone fat fingered it?
Yeah, I mean, if you're putting the onus on the passenger to know what's a mistake and what's not, and then have the airlines retroactively change it, I think that's.
And so here's the thing, right? Like, I absolutely knew that the $0 base fare to Beijing was a mistake. I get that. I'm not so naive as to say there's no way people know.
Yeah.
That one was clearly a mistake. No one meant to sell $0 business class tickets or $20 business class tickets to Asia from the United States.
But this blurs the line.
There are situations where it's a blurry line, and the question becomes can the airline just say, "Oh no, oops, never mind"? And is it only if they didn't publish an advertisement about it somewhere? How is it really going to be defined? And I don't want to go down and play the slippery slope of we just never know.
Yeah.
But there are some legitimate fares where you don't know, and I'm not sure that like I said before, I feel like the pendulum keeps swinging wildly all the way to one side or the other, and there's got to be a middle ground somewhere.
Yep.
So it's in the meantime, customers are expected to know the difference. So good luck.
In some other news, we were talking about last episode we were talking about some route changes and capacity changes and things. And part of that was United moving some planes around and putting 767s on routes that were previously 757s. Well, just this last week, we learned that United will be moving all of their 787-9s, except for a couple, to Houston as they take delivery of them. And putting them on routes that were previously either 763s, 777s, or 764s. I think that includes every destination except Munich, and I think there was one other one, but I can't remember. Oh, Lima. which Munich is a 764 right now, and Lima is a 763. And they're doing this because I think they need the planes, right? I mean, I think that it's...
Well, they got to move the sixes up to Newark to do the former 752 routes.
Yep. And I think it's just it's an ease of use for the fleet as well. So they can do maintenance in Houston. They're staffed by former Continental crews. I think from that part of it, it makes sense. It is a little weird because some of those routes don't need a 789. I don't think.
That's right. It's an upgauge to Santiago, which has often had plenty of space available.
Yeah.
But it's, are any of them 77s, or are they only 76s they're replacing? Is Tokyo getting a 789?
Yeah, Tokyo's getting a 789. So they'll pull that 777 up.
Pulling the 772 off of that. Arguably, right, these are the sorts of changes that this merger was supposed to bring about. We were supposed to rationalize the fleet, move things around, and get things right-sized.
Yep.
Someone mentioned online that if they do this, all of a sudden all those, because the flight crews are still not integrated, at least on the flight attendant side, getting the passengers in, or getting the flight crews, who are now all of a sudden a bunch of United flight crews domiciled in Houston, where they opened up a new crew base, and now they're pulling all the long-haul flying for that crew base out. It's like, did they just move a bunch of people that they're going to have to move again because it's going to have too many flight attendants in the wrong spaces?
Yeah.
That's going to be a little awkward, but...
Yeah, and it's interesting because they left those two flights that I mentioned as 763s and 764s, and it's only one flight.
They might change.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rollo.
No, I was just going to say that it just reminds me of when the Istanbul and Buenos Aires flight came to Newark, and the crew had to start in D.C., and it was just crazy. Like operational wise, they always had a problem with those two flights because the crews they didn't have them based in Newark. Like they never started in Newark, and that was just a problem.
Oh, like they had to commute up to Newark to start the trip.
Yeah.
If they were delayed, it screwed everything up.
Exactly, and that's why they had a lot of issues with those flights. I mean, other than light loads, they had operational issues. They were always delayed.
So, I mean, it's a good question because if they've moved all those people down to Houston because they had those planes in Houston, and now are they going to move them back to? Do they still have a Newark base for pre-merger United people? I think they do, or they use JFK.
I don't know. Actually, that's a good question.
Well, at the time those flights were running, they weren't using JFK.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's changed. I feel like could have been sort of New York City based, but I don't know if that includes Newark or not.
Yeah. It's nice, I guess. I mean, what do you think of the 789, Seth? I guess that's a good question for you. You've been on it, right?
I was on the first flight, working for Airways, on that one. It was, very similar to the 788. I think aesthetically it's got slightly nicer proportions. It's got newer seats, a new generation of the economy class seat. Business is basically the same. But the economy class seat is a articulating one, so the seat base shifts a bit as you recline. I like it. I like the 789. I was reminded of when I got on American's inaugural last week that it is a little narrower in the shoulders.
Yep.
Fortunately, the first time I did it on United, I was next to two really big guys. The second time, this past trip I did it, I was next to a rather smaller woman. So we didn't have the shoulder conflict. But it can be a little tight. But I love the higher humidity and the higher pressurization for long haul flights. I can tell a difference. My skin and my nose know the difference.
Yep.
So that matters to me.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's weird. I guess for people like in Newark and Chicago, they're a little disappointed because the plane's not showing up on routes there. But there's rumors that the 777s will go to the new 777, the 77Ws that they're going to take delivery of, whenever that is, will fly out of Newark mostly. So maybe that's a bad thing though, because aren't they saying
those are going to be tight in the back also? 343 on a 777 is basically 333 on the 78s. It's more or less the same seat at that point.
Yeah.
And there are people who like one type of seat over another and prefer one vendor over or one configuration over another, and some like the ability to upgrade on a legacy United plane that you don't have from business to first. And you're never going to make everybody happy. So I've stopped trying.
Yep. Let's talk about some premium Twitter, shall we?
My tweets are awesome. You can definitely premium them.
So Rollo, what is this? This Etihad premium Twitter for gold guests. What is this?
So Etihad is offering a new premium, I guess it's a locked Twitter account that for their Etihad guest gold members. Basically what they're saying is that they're going to have a 5-minute response time for verified members. So they'll start following you and you can message them directly rather than just tweeting at them, and they'll follow your tweets. It's called Etihad Premium or something like that, and they're trying to improve their social media image. Now, what I don't know is if you're going to be able to have access if you're flying, one of their premium seats, like the residence or the apartments or anything like that. Because I guess right now it's saying you need to photocopy your Etihad Gold card and email it to some sort of social media Etihad email address, and they'll verify you and follow you. But I don't really know what.
Are they going to unfollow you when your status expires?
Well, that's the thing. Is that's why the question is, would they even let you do it only if you're flying? If you buy a first class seat and you want to have this Twitter account, it's going to be a lot of work. And then when when your status expires, I guess you either have to resubmit or I'm sure they'll start deleting accounts.
Yeah, I just want to point out I went to the Twitter/Etihad Premium webpage, and it is indeed a protected account. You can't see in. Currently 279 followers, or it is following 279 people, and 284 are following it. But the header image they have is a complete Photoshop clone job. The two airplanes have the same tail number.
Only you, Seth. Only you would notice.
It caught my eye.
A6 ATA?
Yeah, it's the same on both of them.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's a lovely A380, but I think it's an interesting concept of trying to the same thing exists on a phone queue, so why not in a Twitter queue, or whatever other media or medium you're using to communicate with your customers. I know there are sort of social media management platforms out there that'll do this in a more public timeline sort of manner, where sort of bubbles up the important users to the top of a response queue if someone mentions an account or something like that. So this is definitely not the only people playing in this space, but this may be the only sort of secret account. I feel like a little bit like it's when Homer Simpson joins the Freemasons and he gets the business card with the real phone number for emergencies.
I mean, have you seen anything? Are other airlines doing something similar to this, Seth? I know you've been at a couple of conferences recently. Has this been a topic at all?
I think that sort of making social media more responsive and just, making it a proper formal communication channel is definitely something that they're looking at right now. I mean, just because you have a Twitter account doesn't mean it's really a proper customer service channel.
Yep.
And some airlines do it better than others, and some do it more consistently than others. But I was speaking with one airline recently who was like, yeah, we really try to provide service through Twitter if people mention us and are having problems. I'm like, well, how do you decide? You say you try, but it's not 100%, right? And they're like, well, no, we can't do it 100%, but we try. And I'm like, well, how do you decide? It's like, well, when we get too busy, if, like there's a weather diversion or thunderstorms roll through a hub, we just can't keep up, and so we stop. And it wasn't quite that blunt, but that was basically the answer. It's like, if it gets too busy, we just can't.
Huh.
So, and to some extent, right, that's one of the problems with an asynchronous queuing system, right? If you could take an infinite number of phone calls on hold, which is essentially what inbound Twitter is, you may never dig out.
Yeah.
Right. I've received replies 2 days later from a Twitter account saying like, hey, did this ever get resolved for you? Not the best customer service, to be sure, but part of me says they should have just ignored it, because at that point I was bitter because
no one ever replied.
No one ever replied. I had to find help elsewhere, and then they brought up the fact that they didn't bother to reply to me. So like, what good does that do to anybody? But there are definitely, like I said before, there are some management tools out there that are now doing a better job of things like associating a Twitter handle with other internal CRM data, whether that's your frequent flyer account or something else. But it's not 100% the norm yet, but I think it's probably getting there.
Yeah.
They're moving in that direction, and just in time for Twitter to no longer be the media of choice. Although I'm not sure. Is Snapchat the next booking support engine? I don't know.
Oh God, let's not talk about.
I don't actually know.
Periscope. You guys went to Periscope.
Periscope. My sex support requests or my flight
Your
support
sex?
requests.
What was that?
My flight support requests.
Oh no.
This is a PG-13 show, Stephen.
Yes, sorry, I apologize. If we start periscoping things, I give up on the internet. So I'll go back to making phone calls to the airlines. So
ironically, if everybody else is periscoping then or Twittering, then the phone line should become more available, right?
That's true.
Until they fire all the
it's all automated. I believe you want to book a ticket. Is that correct? Press 1 now.
But speaking of, to hijack this conversation finally, it's been a while since I've had the opportunity to do that. Have you guys called United lately after having an error on the website?
Yep. It says, I see you were trying to book this flight, and you ran into
Yeah.
an error, would you like to continue that booking or something like that?
And it gives the phone agent who answers the booking on their screen.
Yeah, it's just kind of cool.
It's pretty slick.
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, we clearly are like entering the Matrix, and the Borg knows everything about us. But
Skynet, baby.
Skynet, yeah. Anyway, I thought I had that the first time for a couple of days ago. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty neat. One thing that I guess we should just talk about real quick, Seth. You went on the inaugural. You mentioned it a little bit in the previous story that you went on the inaugural for the American Airlines 787 from was it DFW to Chicago?
Yep.
How was it?
I really think that airlines should not be allowed to schedule 7:10 a.m. inaugural flights.
Especially after you come back from a trans-Pacific flight.
Oh, well, at that point I was still in limbo. I'd been back in the continent a week, but switching time zones like that just no, it was fun. It did mean I had to be mature and go to bed at 11 o'clock from the bar the night before instead of staying up drinking all night. But like I mentioned before, I like the 787 as an experience. American has some interesting quirks in their configuration. One of them is there's 3 rows of economy where the outside seats are pairs instead of triplets. Weird. And so one of them is the row right in front of the bathroom at door 3, which you're reclining against the bathroom, so I'm not a huge fan of. But the other one is the last 2 rows, sort of like how Continental or the United/Continental 777s narrow in the back and they go down to 2 seats for those last 2 rows.
Yep.
American does that with the 787, and none of the other guys do that I've seen. So those are nice pairs of seats. The downside of the ones all the way in the back is there's crew rest above, so there's no overhead bins in the middle.
Oh.
But so for the first of those 2 rows, you've got a seat in front of you that with like you can store things under the window seat, sort of, even though you're sitting in the middle, even though it's the window.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of, you know what I mean? Like this is only 2. They letter them window and aisle, but there's an extra little space for under seat storage there. So there's some neat options. There's just a lot of space around them, but you can't lean against the wall if you want to sleep against the fuselage.
Yeah.
It also has the new business class seats, which are sort of the front and back herringbone sort of mismatch kind of layout.
Yep.
I found it narrow and it tapers both at the head and at the foot. But other people seem to love it. I don't know. These are the seats that like they patented them, and it's a sort of special development that they did with Zodiac, the manufacturer. And they're nice enough. I think the narrowness is, sort of to be expected as airlines try to squeeze more and more people now in flatbeds into the same amount of space. But also it was a little surprising to me to see how much sort of wear and tear is showing up on the seats very early. I'm worried for American in that sense.
Huh.
That's sort of what the longevity of these seats will be.
I mean, do you think
we were the first commercial flight and they were showing some wear?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you think that the reverse herringbone seat works in the 787? I mean, it seems like it's kind of odd because you're kind of like facing the window but backwards. Do you think that's actually going to be a problem? I mean, because they don't have a ton of seats anyway in those, right? A ton of business class seats.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's 28. I think business class seats, 7 rows, 4 across. I think the rear facing window seat is the best seat on the plane.
The most private.
Most private. Your head is protected from the aisle.
Yep.
It's your feet that are sort of pointed at the aisle. You get great views of the wing and the engine, which me, I'm a window seat kind of guy. I think I think a smidgen larger. I can't prove it, but I'm pretty sure I saw that somewhere.
Interesting.
So yeah, I think those are the best seats.
Well, take note, listeners.
I wrote about that, so
Yeah, well, we'll include your blog post.
Yeah.
One other kind of a points thing that I want to talk about real quick. The all Wyndham redemptions have been announced to be just 15,000 points per night. I think you wrote a blog post about this, Seth. That's kind of big news, right? I mean, if you're thinking about transferring points out, I would actually probably keep them in there.
So there's some good and some bad about it, right? The Wyndham program had a whole bunch of like 5,000 and 8,000 or 9,000 point redemptions that are now 15.
Yeah.
So there's actually more got expensive than got cheap.
Okay.
But the ones that got cheap, the max value used to be 50,000 and now it's 15. And those properties that used to be 50,000 point redemptions are in fact redeeming at 15. So
a night's in is 15,000 points?
Yep.
All right.
Or 3,000 points and like $30. They also did cash in points, which is kind of cool. And so it's 3,000 plus some sliding scale of dollars. That's 35 to 95 or 30 to 95, somewhere in that range. So it's one of those things. It really depends on what your redemption profile is going to be. There's the Vivo Wyndham properties, which are the all-inclusives, seem to be included. So you can actually get an all-inclusive for 15,000 points, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Although the one I looked at was also only $120 a night, so I'm not entirely sure that's a great value. But that was just the one night I checked. But yeah, there are definitely some good values that have come about with this change. I'm just, it's one of those things in aggregate. What does it mean for the program? And I can't imagine they made this decision and made this change because they thought they were going to lose money on it.
Yeah.
And they changed the earning rate also. Now there's a minimum of 1,000 points earned per night and some other things. But it's, there is a mixed bag sort of feel to it to me. But if you're the kind of person who's always redeeming at the sort of top tier properties, this might work in your favor. The Wyndham in Boca Raton was letting you redeem suites at the same price as regular rooms. So it's 15,000 points a night for a suite.
That's kind of nice.
That's pretty cool. And then there's a couple I saw that also had upgraded rooms, but that's the one I remember offhand. And so I don't know if that's just someone coded the inventory wrong or what. I mean, it's not all suites. I found other properties where it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
But if you want to go to Boca, good luck.
So I think we're kind of getting close. I think the last thing we need to talk about. I want to talk about your Japan trips, Seth, but I think we should save it for a show when we have a longer time to talk about it because I think it'd be fun. Rolo, do you have a rant this week?
I have a rant. It's been ongoing. So I guess in January I completed my lifetime Starwood Platinum, 500 nights, 10 years elite. And I got this long email, welcome, we were so happy to have you, blah, blah, blah. You will be receiving the special once in a lifetime kit, blah, 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 blah. We need your email. They wanted to confirm my mailing address. So my first question was, is this coming via regular mail or UPS? And they said regular mail. So I confirmed my email, and they told me it would take 4 to 8 weeks to process or to arrive. And I followed up with them a few times because I was between the 4 and 8 weeks, and they're like, well, you give it up to 8 weeks, up to 8 weeks. So as soon as 8 weeks hit, I emailed them, and they replied back to me right away. They said, no, it was processed on this date, so it's still not really 8 weeks. Give it a little more time. So now we're going on like 12 weeks. And I emailed them again, and I didn't get a response. And then a few days later, I get this just a regular envelope, like those promotional SPG mailers they sent. I actually almost threw it out. And then I just opened it, and it said, like, your lifetime credentials have arrived. And it's just a regular card that just says lifetime platinum. But so I don't know.
It says lifetime on it.
Yeah, but why would they go out of their way? I don't think this is the card. I think that they just got tired of me complaining, and they just printed a duplicate card and sent it to me.
Were you expecting like an actual platinum card?
No, a lady told me at the Park Tower in Buenos Aires, she said it's made of like a different material. It probably feels like metallic or something like that. Like, you know how like the Chase credit cards are? Something different. Like I really was expecting something else. And like, you know, in like a little, like, it doesn't even say congratulate me. That's why I think this is just a duplicate card. It's not like congratulations on being, you know, the stupid stuff they would write, one of our most loyal members, blah, 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 blah. So, and I meant to like Google or see if anybody had a picture of a lifetime platinum card on a blog or something, but I just haven't had the time to, and I'm just really annoyed. And I'm not booking any SPG hotels until I get my card, my real card. SPG's under protest.
Who are you staying at now? Hilton's?
No, I'm using my welcomehotels.com.
Oh, gotcha.
Strategy.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Oh.
Great stay in Kyoto. They had foie gras on the breakfast buffet at the place we stayed in Kyoto off on a hotels.com booking.
That's kind of awesome.
Yeah, I was really disappointed that we had to leave to catch a train so early.
Well, I think that kind of wraps up the show. Let's.
Wait,
go ahead.
Breaking news.
Never mind.
Breaking news. I just looked at it, and yes, it's a metallic card. You get this whole like, thank you for being platinum. It's got like all your stays. I'm very upset now. The double rant. They print out a map of all your stays since joining the program.
I think you should put the card in an envelope with a letter that says
send it back. Like, no.
Yeah, this isn't the right card.
No, sorry, wrong address.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rolo.
And I did have another small rant, but I forgot about it. So we'll have to leave that.
Let's save it to the next show.
Yeah.
Well, let's go around the table and tell everyone where they can find you. Rolo?
I am on Twitter at MundoSurfer, and I'm still on Tumblr at mundosurfer.tumblr.com. And the Tumblr app has just been updated, so it's even better than ever. And I follow well, today I was looking at pictures of an ugly doll riding the 787 seats.
That's right. First ugly doll on board American Airlines 787. That's for sure.
Right. And he's not even that ugly.
I think he's kind of cute, but, you know, got to go with the name he was given. So, I am Seth, also known as the Wandering Airman. I'm at WANDRME or WANDR.me.
I'm Steven Seagraves. You can find me at badice.com or on Twitter at sseagraves. You can find the Dots, Lines, and Destinations podcast at moredotsmorelines.com. or on Twitter at @dotslines. Leave us a comment or rate us in iTunes. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.